This episode of That's What G Said podcast is brought to you by Cera Candles, C-E-R-A Candle Company. The website is ceracandles.com. Right now, they have a Valentine's Day box happening. Make sure to get those orders in right now. For $20, you get to pick two of these 3 scents between the Fresh Roses, the Tuxedo, and the Date Night. Use the promo code GINO. It'll get you an extra 10% off. And these are all natural soy wax, free from toxins that are found in the paraffin wax, which is used by the other leading brands. 100% lead-free cotton wicks, locally sourced, made in micro batches. You can check out all the different scents, but look at that Valentine's Day box if you need it for friends, family members, significant others, loved ones. It's something cool. It's very affordable, a little different. It's a nice gesture. Check out ceracandles.com. On this episode of That's What G Said, we have a couple interviews for you. We'll be focusing in on Sam Houston racing for Wednesday. We have an interview with Andy Villanueva, handicapper, where we go through the card, and then an interview with track announcer from Sam Houston, Chris Griffin. Talk all about Sam Houston and give a couple of his plays for Wednesday. And we'll talk some Dodgers. That big trade finally went through with the Red Sox, and then a separate trade with the Twins, and some thoughts on the first weekend of the XFL. Kick back and enjoy this episode of That's What G Said.
So you want your daily dose of sports and pop culture? Well, I know a guy named G who gives it to you good. That's what G said. From Game of Thrones and Stranger Things to DDTs and chicken wings and banking on a long shot to close. Will the Lakers bounce back? Did USC upset them? Will the Dodgers stop on all who oppose? It's gotta be our It's gotta be our year. It's gotta be our fucking year. That's what G said.
Tuesday, February 11th. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of That's What G Said podcast. And talk a little Dodgers right off the top of this trade. Was back and forth and back and forth, and Mookie Betts trade was on and then it was off and then it was on. It never really seemed like it was going to be off as far as the Dodgers getting Mookie Betts. It just kind of seemed like some of the minor pieces would be tweaked, and that's what ended up happening. Mainly, this all went down because the Red Sox owner wanted to just save some money, basically, plain and simple. They wanted to save some money. They didn't think they were going to get pay Betts next year. You get a little something for him, and then you get rid of some of the salary of David Price because the Dodgers are going to take on half of his contract for the next couple of years. When you're a team like Boston, I know a lot of the Boston fans are probably pretty pissed off. Now, what I will say is because of the way Boston waited on this deal, which I thought was kind of the Dodgers ended up paying a little bit more as far as the prospects in this trade now. It's fine. The Dodgers have a deeper system, but it was really weird. It just seemed like all the information came out, and for whatever reason, Boston kind of backed out. They wanted a little bit more, and they ended up getting it. So it worked out well for them. It was weird all the way around the way it was reported from the beginning, and then it was thought to be done repeatedly and then not, and then physicals, and then the Dodgers end up with the player that the Red Sox didn't want. So the original deal, info reading from this article by Craig Edwards over on Fangraphs, the original deal is a 3-team swap, Dodgers, Twins, Red Sox, and then there was another trade between the Angels and the Dodgers. But now there are just 2 different moves. First trade, Dodgers get Mookie Betts and David Price, and then $48 million to pay David Price's $96 million salary. So half of the salary paid. Red Sox get Alex Verdugo, Jeter Downs, and Connor Wong. So they get a really good prospect in Jeter Downs and then another decent prospect in Connor Wong. And then here's a little bit about those prospects. This was from Eric Longenhagen. He was talking about his evaluations of Downs and then Wong, the prospect. So Downs is a polished advanced hitter for his age, dating way back to high school. Not as much of a shortstop likely. Future home is a second baseman. Short back to the ball with some pop. Swing is bottom hand heavy. Leaves him somewhat vulnerable to velocity on the hands, but selective enough at pitches. It can damage. So pretty good all in all. And someone who is a pretty solid hitter for a middle infielder. And then you talk about Wong, who's a multi-positional defender who can also play catcher. Dodgers have tweaked his swing since college. Average raw power, but he lifts the ball. Ability to catch and play on the infield. Kind of a cool role player. So it gives Boston some kind of versatility, flexibility. And this Fangraph said Boston did slightly better in the current iteration. They grabbed a similarly ranked prospect to Gratterall in Downs. They got an extra player in Wong, and they got the financial relief they coveted. So in a vacuum, it's a fair deal. Boston getting lesser prospects for 1 year, the game's best players, because they attached a lot of David Price's contract. But for Boston fans, the deal sucks. The Red Sox didn't need to back off from contention and trade Mookie Betts. And I like the move quite a bit for the Dodgers. The second move, even. So they get Gratterall, who the Red Sox didn't want. They get outfielder Luke Raley, who they actually initially traded to Minnesota, and they get a pick. And then the Twins get Maeda, and Maeda's $10 million to offset Maeda's salary. So the Twins get Maeda what they want. They get a little bit of money to sweeten the deal, and they send an extra player back to the Dodgers, and then the Dodgers get a pitcher who can come out of their bullpen and throw 100 miles an hour. And what's nice for the Dodgers, they have a ton of depth. This is not someone who's going to be asked a lot out of, like, immediately or heavily relied on. He's kind of one of those, like, icing on the cake type players. If this is someone who can help you out in the back of your bullpen, that's huge. For a Dodgers bullpen that, hey, you know, you look at it and this bullpen is not going to be bad this year. They're going to have some options because when you're deep, when you have, you know, deep roster options, like always, it just gives you more options in the pen. So now the question is that other deal where they were just basically getting rid of Jock Peterson and Ross Stripling. The Dodgers made 2 moves today to clear their 40-man roster, to clear from 42, so they're down to their 40-man roster. So Jock and Ross Stripling are part of the 40-man right now. And you know what? It doesn't hurt to have Ross Stripling there as an extra pitcher. Come out of the pen, start some games if you need. Jock, I love. He produced. He's been good for the Dodgers. He's been clutch. The only problem now, when you have Mookie and you have Bellinger, you're going to have Jock and Pollock and Kiki and Taylor basically, you know, battling for one spot in the outfield. So, I mean, we'll see if there's another move to be made for the Dodgers, if they are looking to deal Jock at some point, or, you know, still put a package together. And the general consensus too, you know, like this next, just some bits and pieces from the other Athletic article. You know, Red Sox fans should be happier with the second Mookie Betts trade than they were with the first. This is from Keith Law. A revised deal is way better for the Red Sox, even if Gratterall had passed whatever review that caused Boston to balk at the trade. Jeter Downs is a top 100 prospect. Dodgers acquired last winter. So that's why it kind of was the Dodgers had just acquired Downs. This is not someone who is one of the top prospects for the Dodgers who have a deep system, and this will become one of the top prospects for the Red Sox. So it works out well. The Dodgers didn't feel like they were giving up a whole lot to get Mookie. And you know what? I think a lot of people are kind of just assuming Price is done, and I think it's going to be a really good spot for him to bounce back with no pressure on him, and where he's just not expected to be a top end of the rotation guy. So the Athletic is a little higher on Downs even. His bat is promising for a middle infielder. He played shortstop, but projects at least an above-average defender at second or third. Led the Cal League in doubles and homers this year as a 20-year-old who was young for high A. Promoted to Double A with 2 weeks to go in the season, even though he struggled badly to start the year. Dodgers helped making adjustments to his swing so he could drive certain pitches and unlock more power. Connor Wong, an unusual kind of utility player. He can catch well enough to do it on more than an emergency basis, but can move to other positions, including second or third. Swing and miss problem, but as a 26-man on a roster, he could be quite valuable for his ability to back up at least 3 pitches. So now Boston ends up with its new number 1 prospect in Downs, a useful utility prospect in Wong, and a solid everyday right fielder in Alex Verdugo. That's not bad for Boston. That's better than what they got. And they get Verdugo for 5 more years, and they shed salary. But the big point is it only matters if they're going to put that money back into the major league roster. And they said starting pitching, which remains the big weakness with Chris Sale's elbow, and durability now question, and pitching prospects either far away or back of the rotation types. And then it talks about the Dodgers. The Dodgers had to part with more than they wanted to get the deal done. Downs was not their top prospect or their number 2. He would have been the top 2 for a lot of teams. But, they mentioned Gavin Lux and Dustin May. It's possible the Dodgers would have never would have needed Downs. They do pick up Gratterall, could be a valuable reliever for them right now. The deal for the Dodgers, they added a superstar in right field, plus an immediate impact for a bullpen that has generally been a weak link over the past few years, plus a wild card candidate for the rotation. Twins had to pay a little bit more to get Kenta Maeda and Gratterall to the Dodgers rather than the Red Sox, but now adding outfielder Luke Raley to the trade. Raley was originally with the Dodgers and came to the Twins in the Brian Dozier trade. And then there's more Jock Peterson, who was briefly an Angel. Peterson endured a week of rumors, also lost an arbitration hearing, and now he's on the roster, but he may have to battle, with many others for a spot there. So a weird trade, a weird week or so of this trade. It never really seemed like it was off, but had never really been on until now. What did you guys think of the XFL? It wasn't the same XFL from years back. And I was actually... So I went into it with really low expectations. I didn't know what to think, but I was really impressed. And when you look back at the way this league has been handled versus the first time through, Vince McMahon wanted to kind of make it more of an extension of the WWE, involving WWE announcers. Kind of they wanted to be really hard hitting and a lot of gimmicks on the field. And this USA Today article, 5 things we learned from the XFL's opening game: trading gimmicks for innovation was wise. They're different, but not bad different. There's things that they're probably going to look at it and adjust. But I think the way these games were covered on television kind of tells you right away that they were being treated very seriously by the networks. They had full crews, reporters on the sidelines. That was one of the real interesting things about the XFL. And if you're sitting there going, I don't know, I'm telling you, it was at least this week was better than you probably would have imagined. And my co-host Mike Abadier on the Mike Abadier Show always mentions that. Keep in mind, NFL, we college is kind of like the minors, but they're one of the few leagues that don't really have that minor league or like feeder type system, and if something like this could be great, if it's successful. So what McMahon did this time is he just kind of got a lot of smart people and put them in charge. Oliver Luck, head of the league. Like, you see a lot of familiar faces. There aren't the "he hate me" on the back of the jersey. but they're still trying to be different. Let's go. Let's go through some of the things that are a little bit different that we've seen. So we saw running clock, some spots, stop clock late. We saw differences with the clock, but it seemed to fit. They're trying to speed up the game a little bit. They have a referee that is literally dedicated to spotting the ball on the field to kind of just help spot the ball and go. They've changed the kickoffs. There's special teams rules that discourage touchbacks or kicking the ball out of bounds or punts. They've tried to force coaches to go for it on fourth down or in their own territory. And there's names in some of these players that you remember that you've seen, and they're getting, a second or third, sometimes last chance to get seen and get a shot to play football. There's some hungry, talented players that maybe just been a little bit unlucky. They were injured, they were cut, they were, just playing on the wrong team for the wrong coach and the wrong scheme, and we'll see how it goes, continuing on. But, Raheem Moore, he played 5 years in the NFL, and he played in the Alliance of American Football. That was just a brief last year. And he said the speed of the game in the XFL was similar to the NFL. He said the AFF was a great experience, but it was a little slow. This game feels like an NFL game. One thing you notice right away, though, is the offensive lines are going to struggle. I mean, we don't see a lot of good offensive lines in the NFL, so it's going to be hard to get a lot of real quality offensive line play and run the ball here. You're going to see short passing or really skilled wide receivers and skilled quarterbacks be able to win games. So we have 8 teams. It was a really good week. The ratings are all pretty good. The 4 games, especially the first game on Saturday, DC Defenders beat the Seattle Dragons 31-19. Houston Roughnecks beat the LA Wildcats 37-17. The New York Guardians beat the Tampa Bay Vipers 23-3. And the St. Louis Battlehawks beat the Dallas Renegades 15-9. There was all sorts of interviewing before, after, during plays, which is, you're in the huddle with them. You are hearing them on the sidelines dropping F-bombs right after plays. Reporters were doing a really good job of, they were in the locker room at halftime, and it was a real transparency through everything. They're seeing how the referees are making the replay decisions. Over on ESPN, some of their thoughts. Most people seemed pretty positive where how they reacted to this. Oliver Luck was, really, really happy with it, how everything came through. He's the commissioner, and yeah, ESPN had reporters at all 4 games. The attendance for each game was, right around 17,000. Revamped kickoff alignment, minimized touchbacks. So just to give you an example, 35 kicks over the weekend, 32 of them were returned, 91%. In the NFL in 2019, only 60% of the kickoffs, 60% of the kickoffs went for touchbacks, and only 36% were returned. It's fun. And what helps is that in week 1, there's not anything really bad or negative. There's actually just a little bit of good buzz moving forward. Now, like always, it's going to be difficult. How do you build off of week 1 moving forward into week 2? Can you build? Can you boost ratings, or not even boost? You're probably going to have a little bit of a dip because people probably tuned in for the first time just curious to see. But can you not crater? Because they have really good opportunities right now with Fox. They were on ABC. They're on national TV right now. They have a good window for the next few weeks before people really start kind of especially the next few weeks. Everybody starts focusing in on March Madness for that the conference tournaments, and then the first couple weeks of the NCAA tournament, and then you get basketball. But right now, you could hit the next couple weeks and maybe hook some people if you keep putting a good product out on the field. And you just need things, even when there's a player like Dylan Day who cursed on TV. It's something that kind of gives you a little bit of a buzz, and you get a little kind of like a viral moment from it. So you actually have the opportunity to score 9 points. They don't kick extra points. You can kick field goals, but instead of you go for 1 point, 2 points, or 3 points, either from the 2-yard line, the 5-yard line, or the 10-yard line is a 3-pointer. So if you score a touchdown for 6, you can actually turn it into a 9-point score. You can be down by 9, and that's actually a 1 point. That's actually a 1-score game still. So some things they'll try. They'll see if what the feedback is, but that's what you have to do if you're a different league. You can't just try to be the same exact league and not as good. You have to have a little bit of a tweak, a little bit something different. Saturday peaked an average of 4 million viewers in the fourth quarter as the Dragons attempted their comeback. So there was some interest. One thing that, as a fan, if you're, curious about this, what's always nice, their business model called for a family of 4 to be able to attend games for $100. They don't want to price people out. Talked to a lot of fans. They said, you can get a ticket for $30. They were doing a good job of selling merchandise for pretty cheap. Everything that looked, $30, $40 ticket range. And we'll see how week 2 goes for these 8 teams in the XFL. Okay, so first up, we're going to have an interview with Andy Villanueva, handicapper. We broke down the Sam Houston racing card for Wednesday, February the 12th. Enjoy. Sam Houston, really good card. Get your past performances out as we go through.
Horse racing fans and bettors of all kinds, we are very excited to be covering the races from Sam Houston Race Park here on That's What G Said on each and every episode. They're broadcasting in HD, they have bigger purses, turf racing over there, but for me, the key is that 12% low takeout on their multi-leg wagers, doubles, pick 3s, pick 4s, pick 5s. They are building a great program over there. It truly is Major League Racing. We have to give a big applause to the TTA, the Texas Thoroughbred Association. They've added new incentives and bonus programs for buying and selling horses, so it's better for the customers and it's better for the horsemen in Texas. Their social media presence has been bumped up. You can follow them at SHRP Racing on Twitter, and you're going to find morning training videos, the Monday Minute, jockey interviews, or if you're not on Twitter, you can find all the information at shrp.com. They're just working so hard to treat their horsemen and women and the bettors right, so let's give them a little bit of our focus. A couple big days coming up. February the 22nd is Texas Preview Day, and the big day, March the 21st, that is Texas Champions Day. We'll be covering all of that action here on That's What G Said with all sorts of different interviews focusing in on Sam Houston. Make sure when you go to play the races, give Sam Houston a look with that ultra-low 12% takeout in the multi-leg wagers. Very excited to be talking some Sam Houston here on That's What G Said. Each and every day of Sam Houston racing, we're going to have a podcast out that covers the Wednesday, the Friday, the Saturday action for the next few weeks. And when we want to talk some Sam Houston, one of the absolute best handicappers out there, someone who looks at every race at Sam Houston, very, very sharp, and much more than Sam Houston. I've seen him had big scores all over the place, but our focus is going to be at Sam Houston. We want to introduce to the podcast Andy Villanueva. Andy, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for coming in. So let's give a little background before we jump in and dive into the Wednesday Sam Houston card. How did you get into horse racing? Like, where are you from? Give us a little backstory.
Well, really simple. I got into horse racing when I was 7 years old. My dad took me to the racetrack, and when I was at high school, at LaSalle High School, one of my best friends. Exactly. We're both from there, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So my best friend that went there Rod King, he lived next door to Jimmy Barnes when he was working for Charlie Whittingham. And I told him I wanted to learn about horse racing and wanted to be a groom and wanted to be a hot walker, whatever it took to get into the business. And told me to show up the next morning at 5:00 in the morning. It would show that I was serious about it. Showed up and got a job. So that was when I was 18 years old. That was in '89, and haven't stopped being on the racetrack since.
And now you're more of a handicapper, right? You're handicapping different racetracks and working in that capacity?
Yeah, I handicap racetracks now more so for myself. I used to be with Bruno DiGiulio. Yep. I kind of left that and decided to go my own route, and opportunity came up with Sam Houston because I love the track and I live nearby. And I'm thankful to Chris Griffin to giving me the shot to come in when Trey Styles isn't around to be able to help out the betting public. But yeah, I basically handicap. I also do some bloodstocking on the side now. I opened up my new business, Integrity Racing and Bloodstock. So it's been a fun ride the last couple months.
Yeah, and the thing that drew me to Sam Houston, and you know what's nice with my show here is I can really just talk. I'll talk about whatever like big races come up each weekend, but other than that, like I can kind of dive into whichever card looks good. And I'm gonna play Sam. I was gonna play Sam Houston a lot more, you know, because of the low takeout, and then all the improvements this year. And I played it a few days early on in the meet, and I was just so impressed with like the field sizes, the quality of the racing. What I like is for us bettors, there, you know, I'm not afraid to complain or have a gripe with, you know, sometimes as bettors and customers, we get screwed a little bit. You know, sometimes the tracks raise the prices, things are going on, and I was really happy to see what Sam Houston has done. And I feel like you kind of probably feel the same way. Like they're putting out a really good product, and you get, you know, 12% takeout in those multi-leg wagers. You don't get that anywhere else. Doubles, pick threes, pick fours, pick fives. It really, as a bettor, it makes you kind of feel good before you even go in, right? Like you don't feel like you came in and you're already going to be like, oh man, I have to hit like this or this. I just kind of get like a good feeling before I even play the races there.
Yeah. I mean, the best part about that place, and I mean, I've been following it for about 4 or 5 years now. The racing has improved to the point to where it's probably a better product than most of the racetracks.
Oh yeah.
As far as, you know, field sizes, the competitiveness,
the turf course, which is great, you know.
Turf course, sorry about that if you heard that. Turf course, all of that. It's basically one of the, I think I was texting Sean Feld the other day, and I don't mean to name drop it. I texted him and said, look, this racetrack is probably one of the safest racetracks you'll ever get on. Trainers like to train on this track. The turf course is probably one of the best turf courses in the country. And, you know, you get good field sizes. Texas is up the purses. And, you know, well, all these states are fighting with racinos. The Texas State Commission are putting in bylaws to make sure that there's funds available for Texas racing all of a sudden. So that's why you're seeing the higher purses. That's why you're seeing Ron Mocat and, you know, basically Stone Street Stables and Hillendale's running one tomorrow. So it's really impressive that we're getting bigger fields. And like we said, the quality of racing is almost second to none.
I've been really, really impressed. I love it. This Wednesday card that we're going to jump into in a minute is just, it's excellent. I mean, deep races, deep field after deep field. And you just, what's nice too is like some tracks you play and you're playing and it's like, okay, the pick 5 is the low takeout pick 5. But then you look at the pick 5 sequence or the races sometimes and you're like, you know, I don't really like this sequence. I also just don't feel, because of the low takeout in the double, in the pick 3, in the pick 4, in the pick 5, you don't feel forced. I at least don't as a bettor to have to like play this sequence or this is the pick 5 I have to play, because you can, whatever race, you know, sequence you like, you're going to be getting the best bang for your buck there. And another thing that we love as bettors too, you were mentioning all of the improvements they have. They've got money and they improve their product and they help the fans by keeping the takeout low and HD broadcasting now. It's just the little things that we ask for, they've done in, like you mentioned, in a day when a lot of tracks are kind of fighting or things are kind of going south. It's really refreshing to see a racetrack that's doing things very well, and I'm looking everything that I'm looking at seems like there've been really nice returns so far early on in the meet.
Yeah, there's racetracks that get it. This track gets it. I mean, even as far as when Lady Classic Day was going on, instead of charging for people to come to watch the races, they were like, come on in, let's get as many people as we can to come in here, watch the product, get some food, enjoy yourselves. And I mean, it was a huge crowd. And the reason why? Free parking, free admission. And when you give people free stuff before they walk in, especially at a racetrack where people are going to spend money betting, it makes a big difference that way as far as how things work.
Okay, great. So let's get into the Wednesday card. And so the way Sam Houston runs now on Wednesdays, Friday nights, and Saturdays, and Wednesdays they run in the day. It's 12:20 Central Time for the post, and we're going to kick things off in race number 1. On Sunday, on Wednesday, there's a 10 race card, and there are 2 pick fives, which you can kick the first pick 5 off right in race number 1. So the first race, they'll be going a mile on the turf course in here, and what a race to kick things off. I mean, this is one of those races where you like look up and down and you can start going 4 or 5 deep if you need to. You probably, you start most races when you right now with Parker, the way that he's been riding. But give us your thoughts on this opener. Who are some of the horses you're going to be using in the exotics here?
I mean, when I started looking at this race, I thought the same thing. I'm like, I looked at the PPs and I'm like, well, I got to use Parker.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be wrong not to use him. But then the one thing about Houston is you always have to check the weather. Every day. I mean, every day it kind of changes. The joke around Houston is that, it might be cold 1 minute, wait 5 minutes, and it'll be warm. So, I kind of played this 2 ways. I played it with the possibility of it being an off track and then moving this race off the grass and also on the turf. But if it stays on the turf, like a horse on the outside called Valentine Street.
Yep.
Valentine Street's with Sasha Risenhoover and Larry Stroop. Already had a race over the racetrack. Takes a little bit of a class drop in this spot, and he fits here with the way the race is supposed to set up. As far as the speed early on, could end up getting an early lead, and Sasha on the front end is probably one of the strongest riders. So, and I've said that all meet long, and I'll continue to say it. But I think this horse is going to improve off of that race last out, as far as that's concerned.
I like Valentine Street quite a bit in here too, coming off of a tough trip too. One of those trips where you're down on the inside and you just got nowhere to go and you get shut off and you're like shuffled back and you never even get a chance to run. And now you get that little prep out of the way after the couple months off. So I'm with you. I have the 8 as a horse to use in all exotics here. I want to mention just a long shot because I mean, if you're gonna look at the 8, you're gonna look at the 7, and then then you could start you make a case for the 3 who is right there. You make a case for the 2, for the 4. I think a long shot, if people want to go a little deeper or include a price, is the 10 Samushin, who I thought ran pretty well too. Another one who kind of had a sneaky good trip. You got a nice race recently over the Sam Houston track. This is a horse who likes it here, and I think we'll probably get a little more money than that morning line, and so I think maybe a horse to throw in there. But I had the 8 right as my second selection. I'm glad you mentioned Valentine Street. Any other horses you would think to maybe include or to mention in here?
Well, I had Samisian also because I think he's one of those horses that you have to play,
yep,
especially with Asmussen. But I also like if it goes off track. I know it's kind of like looking as that like
it's nice to mention.
Ball,
yeah, but it's nice to mention.
Yeah, but you have to use the 4.
Yeah,
Poderoso Equus. He's 3 or 4 on the off track. Last time he ran in a little bit tougher spot, and he's offered up for a tag this time. And you're gonna get a price with Ernesto and Valdez or Jimenez. So it's worth a look with that horse. And I think you're gonna look at Yowzer, and I think they're gonna overbet Yowzer with Cabrera.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against maybe leaving him out in a race where you want to spread out, or not necessarily having to key in on him, especially with his running style, right? Like with a horse who comes from so far out of it, he does need things to go his way and then work out a trip. I would much rather, use, even if it is on the grass, the horse you mentioned, Poderoso Equus, who, yeah, I would upgrade for sure if it was off. But I think his grass form too is a little sneaky. He's been in some tough spots on the grass, and then he's not been able to put a couple starts together until now. I love when there's a horse who maybe looks like they have some nagging injuries, or they're the type of horse who needs time in between their starts. I like when they're able to put a couple starts together here. He should have a little more bottom now with that race under his belt. So yeah, I think we covered a lot of the top contenders there in that opener. We move on to race number 2, maiden special weights. These are fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and up, 6.5 furlongs. The distance, the 7 horse coming in from California, the Calibred Twirling Diamond, and the 1 shadowing look like they will probably vie for favoritism in here. That's the Steve Asmussen first-time starter who draws the rail. But, there are a couple others in here that could take a nice step forward. Where do you start with in race 2?
I look at the 1 and I see the pedigree, and I even went back to look at the dam because the dam seemed familiar.
Yep.
And the dam won a Grade 1 Hollywood Starlet when she was
I interviewed Baffert after she won that race. I remember it was one of those few times I got to be reporting. Yeah.
I'm like, there's no way you can not play this filly. And Baffert was thinking of running her at Fairgrounds, and I think he's doing what he did with a filly called Maggie Pie last year, where he made a debut here and then sent her to Oaklawn Park. And I think he's going to do that with shadowing. She was working at Fairgrounds, typical Baffert works, where he's working them slow the last 2 times. She's probably fit, and Aramia is coming in to ride on Wednesdays, and they fire at 22% for the year. So yeah. I figured if that filly is good enough, and I know she's a 4-year-old, but I just don't think anybody's going to beat her if she's got any sort of class.
Yeah, and
as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, I wanted to look and kind of pinpoint how he has been with the first-time starters, in particular at Sam Houston, and he's been really good. Like, he's been 10 for 33 over the last 5 years with the first-time starters at Sam Houston, and this year he's been 3 for 8 with a second and a third. So he's sending first-time starters here that can win, good ones. I think there's another one of them that's actually entered on the Fairgrounds undercard that won first time out here at Sam Houston a couple weeks back. So some quality ones that'll still come here. If you're going to go, I think that you kind of have to make your decision. Like Andy said, if you think the 1 is that good, this might be a horse to kind of key in on in some of the early exotics, and I wouldn't talk you off doing that. I do think the 9, Zebecca, and the 4, Nelly D, who both come out of the same race on January the 18th, they can both improve. Zebecca ran a really weird race. She was on the lead, and then she looked like she was completely done. She backed up, looked like she was going to maybe not be eased, but just kind of finish last, and then she completely re-rallies, angles out, comes back on again. It was really bizarre, but it was kind of impressive. And then the 6, we mentioned the 7. I'm kind of okay with taking a shot against the 7 Twirling Diamond in here. What are your thoughts on that? I am too.
Yeah, I'll take, and no offense to Dallas. I mean, Dallas used to be like his MO in the 90s was to run in Texas and then come out for the Hollywood Park winter meet and the summer Del Mar meet, and then go back to Texas. And then he decided to move all his stuff over to California, and now he's moving the stuff back to Texas. So I kind of need to see a race, especially here on this racetrack, because horses that are coming in from Santa Anita aren't firing first out, and I think it's because of the dirt. I think it's because it's a different type of dirt surface than they use in California.
They need to get a little used to it.
So they got to get used to it. But usually, even Robertino, when he brought in those horses from California, they didn't fire right away. Now they're firing. So that one to me was a throwout. I think the 6, going back and looking at that race, I'd just throw out that first race.
Yep.
This was a debut race. She just for whatever reason just had no idea what she was doing. She was completely not wanting to run, and she just decided that she was just gonna. I mean, Ricardo did what he did best, what he should have done, and he basically just took care of her and just raced another day.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think we covered a lot of the contenders in here, and we're kind of both okay with playing against the 7 Twirling Diamond, especially of the 2 short price horses. I'd much prefer the 1 shadowing of those, and then maybe see what price you can get on like a horse like Zybeca or Nelly D. But if the money's probably going to come in early on the 1 if this horse is live, and then we'll definitely know early on. And with that really nice dam, you mentioned the Grade 1 winning dam who won that Grade 1 in just her second career start. Let's get to race number 3. 7 furlongs, $10,000 claimers in here. This race, I thought the 1A Toasting Master of the Carl Broberg entry was going to be pretty tough in here. He was chasing the favorite Call Me Richard, and he just missed. Like the next jump, he's the winner, and he gets to go a little bit longer in here. I thought he's probably where you have to start in here. I don't usually like to go too chalky. I always try to find one. And I think the price for me, I'm going to toss in is the 6, 15 Love Black, who's coming off of a nice win and can turn back a little bit. But how do you see this race?
So I agree with you that you got to use the 6. I love the 2 in this race. Archie, if you go back and you look at that race on January 10th, that horse was dead beat at the top of the lane, and he just dug in and fought back, and he staved off Daddy, who came back and won his next start the following week. So you got a horse that is probably still got some Danny Pish in him as far as the training is concerned, and he likes this course. And I just think that with the 2 Brobergs, you're gonna see way too much money put on them. And I think that there's other value in this race to where you can go other places to play. Okay, and so 15 Love Black is the other one.
Yeah, 15 Love Black, who was forwardly placed, sat tucked inside, was just within a few lengths and waited, then got a nice split, was up for the win, and now is going to go third off the bench. So could be ready for even a nice step forward. We've seen how he likes it here at Sam Houston. I think there's plenty to like with 15 Love Black. Those are the 3 that I had. I had 6, 1, and 2 as my 3 to use in here, and maybe you get a little price on the 6 and try to get in them. But for me, I kind of thought those, and Archie too, like you mentioned, that race last time out was so nice because he put the speed away and then he holds off other challenge and then he battles back. And I love a horse who's been able to win in different ways, like he has in his last 3 or 4 starts. You see one on the lead, you see one where he's coming from way out of it, another one where he's just kind of mid pack, and he just shows you he can kind of adapt to whatever goes down. He's a nice horse to use. Yeah.
The other horse I might throw in, especially if for me, I mean, the 1's a single for me in a pick 5. So I'm probably going to go a little deeper here to hope I get a price. And I'd probably throw the 8. He's a Ranger in. I know he hasn't won over Sam Houston yet, but he's 5 of 8 in the money. And he's getting 5 pounds off with Crystal Conning coming on board. And she's coming out here to ride for hopefully the remainder of the meet. So, that 5-pound weight here is going to be a big plus to them.
Let's move on to race number 4. These are optional, claiming price $7,500 or optional. Started for a claiming price of $7,500 or less 2019, claiming price of $15,000. Mile on the turf course in here. Start this one off. Who are some of the contenders for you in here?
The Broberg Blue Harbor, which is the number 8, and the 6 Imperial Mission, the Ethan West horse with Deshaun Parker. Ethan West has brought a big group of horses here from Indiana.
These 2 are going to be in all of my exotics also. I think, very logical. Imperial Mission coming off of a really nice effort behind a horse named Marquis Prince. Marquis Prince is a multiple stakes winner and graded stakes placed. So that's a really good runner-up effort last time out for Imperial Mission. And then, you have Mr. Tickle, who's just a win machine on the outside, who's won 5 in a row and who's won 6 of 7. I thought Blue Harbor's trip was a little bit worse, though, in a race where he got kind of hooked a little bit wide, and then he was forced to make an early move. And then the other horse I'll mention is What Power, who I really liked his last effort. I think he had a good start. He was kind of settling inside mid-pack, and then he got shuffled. He was in between horses. He had traffic. He had to angle all the way around, 6-7 wide. And
it was a good third, and he was really starting to move late. So I think he might be a horse to include in some of the exotics. Anyone else in here you want to mention?
Yeah, probably the 1 and the 1A, Humor and Gray Hope. You can't ignore them. The one interesting thing is Gray Hope won a Lady Clown on the turf and gets wheeled back as an MTO here. So kind of like Asmussen's trying to figure out whether or not he can handle the dirt a little bit and see what he's got with him. That's my thought process on him, but he's a nice little horse.
And let's move on to race number 5 here. Maiden special weight, 7 furlongs. To me, this is one of my stronger plays. I just really like Black Rock Castle in here. I thought it was really big in the debut, missed the break, angled 3 wide, was in between horses, and then kind of made a 4 wide early move. Put away one half of the entry, but couldn't hold off the other half of the entry. I just think if this one improves at all in here, will be really, really tough. So for me, that's going to be a strong play. Like I thought the 7 and the 8 were maybe some prices to include underneath with some of them. But again, this is one of these races that we were kind of talking about when you start handicapping this card. Like you look at this race, this was a fun one. You can go in many different directions. That's kind of why I like to take a stand in one of these races where people might go in different directions.
Yeah, I mean, I liked the 3 too. I like Black Rock Castle, or the 2. Like you said, 15-1 on the morning line, and the first click he was 7-5. I knew Mike liked him because Mike always bets like right before he goes into the paddock. And when I saw the tick, I'm like, oh, this horse is live. So obviously he's got a lot of talent. He's probably going to run big again. I also like the outside horse, Carpe Arrows. Brett Calhoun already got a race under him here. He's going to come back on his next one. That looked kind of more of a learn-in race for him. He probably wasn't fit. He probably tightened the screws, and he has to work in between races. I think he's going to run huge.
Well, let's jump to race number 6. They'll go a mile. So now what's cool, you can play it's fun when you can play 2 pick 5s and they don't overlap. Like 2 separate pick 5s. And this is great that they've been doing this now at Sam Houston. And the second one will start in race number 6 for just 12% takeout. 25,000 non-2 claimers, mile and a 16th on the turf course. I mean, I wanted to try to get away from Countenance, but I couldn't. Can you get away from Countenance in here?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't trust her the first. I didn't trust her in her race on the 15th. I thought she was beatable then. I thought she was Countenance just had. I think if you're looking for a price, Decorated, that was a rough trip that she had, and Quincy really didn't have anywhere to go in that race until much later, and then he finally found a hole, and then she tired out because Cherokee Summer just ran a huge race that day. I think that was Sasha dictating the pace and going 1:14.3. I mean, she slowed it down, and by the time they tried to catch her, it was too late.
So I think the approach here is either, Countenance or you're going Decorated for Gold would be another one to look at. I thought the 7 and the 8 might be other horses if you're going to go away from the favorite or maybe to include in.
I'm going to say you have to look at Synthetic to Grass here at this track. It does pretty well.
And that's Notorious Gal coming in off that yes. Turfway win on December the 18th. So, yeah, this race, depending on how you handicap it, if you're with the favorite, if you're against the favorite, Countenance will probably be one of the shorter price favorites, I think, throughout the card.
Mm-hmm.
And
I agree.
And then we get into race number 7, which is going to start the late pick 4 sequence. 5.5 furlongs, maiden, 10,000 claimers in here. Who do you start with in this race, Andy?
I kind of couldn't go off of Hong Kong Helen. She had a race over the track, second start since, and, Asmussen's dropping her down to the bottom level here to try to get a win. The Ackerley brothers won a lot of races here. It's going to be hard to go away from her. If somebody forced me to go away from her, I'd probably go to Versailles Law just because Cabrera's riding for Torres instead of Valdez Jimenez.
Yeah, it was an okay debut for the 9 Versailles Law.
It wasn't bad. It was a little bit better than it looks on paper to kind of track from the outside and was in the mix and then backed up a little bit. And it was in the slop too. So, if you can always kind of give a little bit of a pass for that. I mentioned a few other horses in here because, you got to kind of start and figure out what you're going to do with Hong Kong Helen. Are you going to go all in with that one, or are you going to, maybe chuck and try to and spread around? I think if you're going to go all in, Andy gave you kind of the reasons why. If you're going to spread and go around, the 9 would definitely be a horse I would include. I think the 10 would be very interesting. This is a horse who has shown a little bit of speed, really in all 3 of her starts. She went longer last time out against better, and now she drops and cuts back. And, when you look up and down this race, there isn't it depends on Hong Kong Helen, right? But I don't even know if Hong Kong Helen is a speed demon. And if they get intent on just trying to get the lead with Funky Justice, maybe they can sneak away and catch a slice in here. I thought the 3, Humdinger with the blinkers on, could step forward. So another horse to maybe use in the exotics. The 5's maybe logical to use in the exotics too underneath if you're playing like the 6 on top.
Yeah, and I think especially with the 10, with the 5-pound bug and Crystal probably going to send. The filly gets out really quick anyway. Mm-hmm. Hong Kong Helen last time out did not break well. And if she does that again today, she's going to have a lot of work to do because it's a short run.
Race number 8 kicks off the late pick 3. It's a 15 claimer, non-2, 7 furlongs. The distance in here, I thought the 5, Bodifecta is in kind of a good spot. He drew the rail last time out, and he kind of was forced up into it a little more than I think he wants to be. You got to figure out what you're going to do with a couple of the horses that are coming out of the same race with Yak and Dobie here. You never want to look at a horse that Broberg has that could be a big price like the 2 and leave them out. The 11 I thought you could make a case for. So again, is kind of sounding like broken records throughout this card, like another deep race where it feels like you can use many.
Yeah, and I thought if that horse was going to fire Broberg, it would have been last out, especially after he showed speed. So I'm a little lukewarm on that one. I do like the horse Bodifecta, like you said. I think Dobie runs a better race than he did last out, and I think he turns the tables on Yak here. He was well-liked going into that race. They bet him strongly. And, I mean, that's a pretty good race being 1 length off the lead, going a mile, finishing up. Usually they're a little strung out going a mile, and they didn't do that in this race. I kind of would go back to him on that one.
Yeah, a fun 8th race there. So yeah, we both key in definitely on Bodifecta, but then after Bodifecta, you can go in a couple different directions, and I don't think anyone's going to get a ton of support here. This feels like one of those races where 3 or 4 horses might all be really close in price. Let's move to the late double, which is race number 9, 25,000 claimers, non-winners of 3, 5 furlongs on the turf course. You lead off on this one. Where are you starting here, Andy?
I'm going with take the over. That race he ran on the 17th was so impressive. I mean, he probably could have won by a lot more. It's just about that. And so I'm probably going to use him, especially if the one which I highly doubt, for CJ Thoroughbreds. And then I'm also going to use the 7, Light Up the Devil. I thought he was going to run a better race last time out, and that race hasn't come back to be as productive. But, sometimes Mike needs a second race to tighten up the screws, especially after a couple months off. And he's going to try him on grass this time.
Yeah, I have the 7 on top in here, mainly because I think the 1's impressive. I think the 2's impressive with this speed. The only thing that worries me a little bit about the 1 is just the rail. And if he gets maybe kind of put in a bad spot or just kind of forced to go a little faster with speed to his outside, that's why I put the 7 on top instead, just because I felt like she might get the best trip maybe just kind of fall into it if a couple of these are going quick early on, and she's going to cut back from 6.5 furlongs, so she should have a little more late punch. I agree. I kind of was expecting a little bit more from this mare last time out, but if you're going to be able to get like a nice price around 3 to 1-ish or so on her, I think that's fair. The Broberg, is going to probably show some speed first time on the grass. That's I'm a Barn Cat, and definitely one who you would upgrade if this race was off the grass. It would definitely. Yeah.
Let's see, anyone else I wanted to mention?
Yeah, I was going to mention the 8 Hawkeye girl.
Okay.
7 lifetime starts on the turf, 7 times in the money, 5 out of 7 first and second. And Retama is actually a tougher track than people think out here in Texas. So those races are pretty sharp, and she fits here with these horses. And if you're going to get 10-1 and you're going to throw in your doubles to end the day, I mean, that would be a nice little price to go with.
And then we'll close things out in race number 10 with 5,000 claimers, non-winners of 3, 5.5 furlongs. The distance in here, couple that I'll mention. I mean, the one from the inside is going to be tough. Obviously, I thought if you're looking, at prices, the 8 Iced Out is interesting. You can make an excuse for his last start or her last start not being that great, even though it wasn't terrible, but she's just not quite as good on an off racetrack. So then she would be one if it's an off racetrack that you wouldn't necessarily want to upgrade. But if it's a fast track, I think she's interesting. If you play her off the 2 back race, she would be really competitive in here, just coming off of that effort. So I think she's the one to use. The 5 is really quick. 2 might be the one to catch in here. And to the outside, the 12 Witz Gatto was getting a little class relief and could take a little step forward, second off the bench. Give us some of your thoughts on this race.
I love the 5, Castanuela.
Yep.
And the bigger reason is people that are starting to learn about Sam Houston racetrack always look for Craddock and a Mexican bred horse. For whatever reason, he just moves these horses up. He knows how to do it, and this horse I think is going to run big off the layoff, just because Craddock usually has him cranked up to go. And I really like the horse on the far outside, the 12, Witz Gatto. You can ignore the Sam Houston. He was racing against a bit tougher. He's down to the lowest level of his career. He does well on an off track, and the distance, this is where he's won his 2 races. So you can't say no to this horse as far as that's concerned and leave him off a ticket.
A really fun Wednesday card. Andy, we've been talking about getting you on here for a while. I'm glad I finally was able to. And now, we're both looking at Sam Houston a lot. We'll have to get you on a bunch of times now over the next couple months as we handicap these races every day. So thank you so much. It was a lot of fun. You gave me a half hour plus of your time, and we dove through everything. Give the folks out there some of your plugs. Where can we find you on social media and follow along with you?
You can follow me at Villanueva 3RD on Twitter. That's the best way to get a hold of me. I mean, I'm always there, and I'm always tweeting something out. So just follow me there, and I'm sure everybody else will follow back who I have as far as followers are concerned.
And we can find your bloodstock information there, just like on following you on Twitter and stuff too.
Yeah, you can go to you can actually, that one's awesome. You can go there to look for Integrity Racing on bloodstock.com, or you can go to the website. It's up and running. It's got a few pictures, and we got a lot more going up there this week once I get back to California.
Great.
Or not to California, Sam Houston, or to Texas. I'm so used to saying back to California.
Yeah. It's just like, it's just like, muscle memory, right? You just, you've said that so many times throughout your life. So, yeah, I mean, this was fun. It was a blast. We've interacted a bunch online before, but we've never really had the chance to have a conversation. So it was a blast, and I think it's going to be the first of many. So thank you very much, buddy, and we'll talk again real soon.
All right, have a good one.
That was Andy Villanueva.
A big thanks to Andy Villanueva. And now we're going to get to our next interview in just a moment with Chris Griffin, track announcer at Sam Houston. We're going to hear from one of our sponsors, and then we're going to get to that interview with Chris. Enjoy. One of the sponsors of That's What G Said podcast is Cindy Carava, full-service realtor, and I am here over in Glendora at Coldwell Banker with Cindy Carava. Cindy, how was 2019 for you? Tell us a little bit about what kind of stuff you were working on.
Hi, Gino. Thanks for having me. 2019 was just really great. I had a great year selling homes all the way from Altadena, Arcadia, Monrovia, out to Upland and Ontario just recently. The market has been really good. We're looking forward to 2020 with an increase in home prices about 5.8% this year, opposed to last year where it was a little softer. We saw more like homes averaging about 3.5% in increase in value. It's also looking great for buyers. The interest rates right now are going to be staying under 4%. So if you've been on the fence about thinking about buying a home, now is the time to do so with interest rates still staying low.
And you offer more services than just the buying, selling, and leasing homes. Tell us about some of the other services that you offer and what a full service realtor really is.
So you're right, Gino. Besides me being a full-service realtor of finding properties for my clients to buy or selling their homes or finding rentals for them, I also have a plethora of resources like handyman, contractors, electricians, plumbers. I even, if like I said, if you're thinking about getting a home loan, I actually work with 2 great lenders that I can recommend to anybody.
And you're all over the internet, social media, websites. Let us know some of the places where we can find you. I know I've seen some reviews on Yelp and on Zillow. Everyone always has positive things to say. Everybody hears me raving about you all the time. But where can everyone else find out information about you or contact?
Thank you, Gino. Yeah, I am on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. And you can contact me on my website, which is www.cindycarava.com, or my email, which is cindyc.realtor@gmail.com, or feel free to call or text me on my cell phone, which is 626-394-6400.
Cindy is awesome. She's one of the kindest and most genuine people I've ever met. I promise you, you will enjoy every minute you interact with her. So thank you very much, Cindy. Appreciate all of your support from That's What G Said podcast.
Thank you, Gino. Have a great day, everyone.
Our next guest is a voice that many of you hear calling the races over at Sam Houston. He is a man who's the track announcer over there, but he wears more hats than just that. We welcome in Chris Griffin over from Sam Houston. Chris, thanks for joining us. But besides track announcer, what else are you doing over there? Handicapper and a little bit of everything, right?
Yeah, Gino. Dog walker. I was walking the dogs this morning. I was doing lots of different things. But, yeah, it's a great time in Houston, and it was a great opportunity for them to take some of my marketing background and be able to use that and come in here and do the dual roles and do the marketing side of things, and then take that hat off and put my announcer hat on and get onto the racing side. And it's been a busy experience. I got here in November, so it's just been kind of put your boots on and get after it. And we have a lot of great things in place at Sam Houston already. And so I'm just hoping that I'm helping that. And there's a lot of great things that are going on in Houston, Texas, and Texas as a whole. A lot of things that happened over the weekend, just it's some of the connections and the people that are from here. So it's an exciting time to be here. I think I got here at the right time, and it's working out really well. I'm just really happy and gonna be here for as long as they'll have me here in Houston, Texas, and we're just having a great time.
Well, yeah, and let's stick in Texas where we're talking about things. I mean, from just me selfishly as a horse player, what I loved is that Texas got an influx of money in this year, which they were able to use to boost their purses. And so what they do is they boost their purses, they upgrade the broadcast, and what that does is it draws people in. They don't hike up the takeout. And I think that's a big focal point for Sam Houston. And it's a great selling point is that, hey, we're talking about 12% takeout in daily doubles, pick threes, pick fours, pick fives, not just one pick five of the day. Like any of those multi-race rolling exotic wagers, this is the lowest takeout around. Like this is what the bettors want and they've been clamoring for. And I'm seeing awesome stuff from Texas and the TTA, what they've been doing. Like, can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, especially here at SHRP, Frank Hoff, and I've always talked about him and the Senior Director of Racing Operations, the entire racing side, as far as putting the wagering menus together and the wagering format and kind of getting it to where the bettors are really interested in the product. Gino, we're in a unique spot that when we race on Fridays and Saturday nights, and, when you kind of look at things and you take a look at the scope of a Friday and Saturday in the horse racing world, what happens? It's the first thing you wake up and you're ready to go to the track and you're ready to watch some races on simulcast simulcast, or you're going to go to be on site and you're going to bet on some races. And so when you go through the afternoon cards and you start getting into the evening, bettors they've been firing away at the windows during the day, and now they're getting to nighttime. We're trying to keep that energy level up and keep them excited about it. And so in order to do that, you have to make it, you have to give it the appeal that the bettors are going to enjoy. Yep. And so putting the 12% takeout in on multi-leg wagers was a big thing. Being able to offer different wagering opportunities, because whatever side of the coin you are on jackpot wagers, we have something for you. Whether it's looking at a pick three, we took a look at that pick three, and when some folks didn't like it as the 50-cent variety or kind of going that direction, it was a $1 minimum, and the dollar pick three payouts have been fantastic. But some people do enjoy playing the 50-cent tries or playing a 50-cent pick four, 50-cent pick five. Give them the low takeout of 12%. We feel like we're giving everyone a wide array of options when they stop by on a Friday or Saturday night, and also our Wednesday afternoons. It's a very big portion of the week, because it kind of kicks off the racing week for everyone nationally. So for us to be in that spot in the Central Time Zone, it's good for us on a Wednesday afternoon. And so Fridays and Saturdays, same thing. We're just trying to capture your attention. We want the people to come on site. We do these promotions, and we were rocking our 70s gear on Saturday, and
you have fun over there.
Yeah. It's a fun experience, and when we put it all together, hopefully it leads to some really great things. You talk about Texas and the state of Texas and their response and the TTA. Texas has the battles from the not having casinos type of the slot revenue basically involved, and so everyone knows it. It's been well publicized, and Texas is really now giving horse racing an opportunity here, and listened to the horsemen, and there was a response, and found a way to send some money in the direction of the horsemen and racing, and SHRP is going to be a big benefactor in that, and so are some of the other racing entities in Texas as well. And so it's a Texas program. It's not just the Sam Houston program, and that's just great for the state overall. The horsemen, the response has been phenomenal. I mean, you take a look at the backside and how we had stalls, and people still wanted to get into stalls, and we had trainers calling from everywhere that wanted to get involved. I mean, Texas is a great place to be. The weather's good during the winter. We'll talk about the weather a little bit going into this week, but the weather, here is very nice for the most part. You're not going to see a ton of snow here. You're going to catch the warmer weather as we get into some of these spring months, and it should just lend to more exciting and great racing that we can continue on. And we're here for 39 days. It's not the longest meet, in the larger landscape of some of the meets out there, but we found our place on the racing calendar, and we're really going in the positive direction. And I'm happy to be a small part of that, and involving people like you, and getting the West Coast folks involved and listening to us and following to us, and getting the East Coast people and bringing them here to the Midwest, to the South. Is a great thing to be. So we've got a lot of great things going on, and you've listed them on your cast many times, and I appreciate the coverage, and we're just excited where things are going, and we want people to also realize that this is a long-term plan. I mean, these are long-term goals that we have. This is not going to be a one-time thing for us. We really want to continue to grow. We're building this really great product in Houston, Texas, and we hope the bettors join us, the general public join us, and everyone's a customer. If when you get involved with Sam Houston Race Park, we welcome you all, and we're working hard to make sure you have a great time.
A couple things that I think Sam Houston in particular, and just the state of Texas have going for them is just their location, right? You're like right in the middle, so you can get horses and connections and people shipping in from all over. And we've started to see that now. I mean, there are some races where, you're going to get the logical horses that are, have been running at Remington or maybe Delta, which I love, because I covered a ton of this Delta of Remington when I was working at TVG. So there are a lot of connections and a lot of familiar names that I know very well from some of my trips out to Vinton. And the location is great. I'm such a fan of looking at a race and you see, you have a horse or two from the East Coast, and when you have a big barn like Asmussen, they can be coming in from all over the place. Diodoro's been absolutely rolling and then you're getting like more from the West Coast horses that you've seen, horses that, because the purses are so strong over there, there's a turf course over there. I mean, there's nothing missing at all. It is really, like you guys have been using the hashtag Major League Racing, but it absolutely is. I'm looking at some of my plays for Wednesday, and when I have 9s and 10s written down and 11s and 12s in the pick 4s, that's always a good thing because those are huge fields.
Yeah, and you talk about location. I mean, there's two sides of it. We do have a great location, and we do have an opportunity to be in front of a lot of different horsemen from a lot of different states. It also lends to us being in a very highly competitive environment as well, and so we keep that in mind. And the turf is a big part of that. The fact that we do have a wonderful turf course and the TrackMan and the crew and just everyone on the racing side, they just work so hard to maintain the surfaces and keep us safe, and keep the horsemen safe and the horses and jockeys and get everybody around there. When we talk about the turf racing aspect, that's a big part of what we do. And so you do see when we card these races and we get, a few of these turf races in here, and they're going to go the 2 turns, and we're going to get those mile races. That's got to have appeal to horsemen, I have to believe. It's got to have appeal to different connections, because the surrounding areas, they don't always have those opportunities for the turf. And so we hope that the clouds hold out and we don't see a ton of rain, because then we have to come off, and that changes things a little bit. But you can't do that. You can't think in that nature. You can't live in that world where you're just carding races and saying, well, maybe it's going to rain here, maybe it's not. But we're doing the best we can. And like I say, the horsemen have responded, and we've got a great group of top trainers that have shown up. You talk about Silks that won over the past few weeks, when you're seeing Godolphin Silks and Claiborne, Juddmonte, and it's really putting us into another category as far as building to that major league racing that you talk about. It's been a wonderful ride so far. No complaints as we continue to do really great work, and we just got to keep it up. With the what is it? What is that Spider-Man saying? With great power comes great responsibility.
Exactly.
Or whatnot, and that's what it is. I mean, it's a responsibility for us to continue to put out this great product. Make sure the surfaces are safe, and make sure that we're winning across the board, and that folks are really enjoying us. And so, as long as the track announcer does his job in the booth once in a while, then we're good to go. It's been fantastic so far. The response has been great, and it's, even though it seems like it's kind of, it just flies by. In 39 days, it's going to fly by really fast. We're already getting towards Texas Preview and then Texas Champions. So just getting off of the heels of Houston Racing Festival, we're rolling. We keep rolling through.
Okay, and those are the 2 big days I also wanted to mention, because those are some of my favorite days to play, because you get a lot of these state-bred or local horses who get the opportunity to kind of step up and run for a little bit more money than they would normally, to get a little black type, to take a chance. I mean, you had a great Texas bred who was huge there on Ladies Classic night, and it's just been a great start to the meet. And with these 2 big days coming up, tell us when is the Texas Preview Day, and then when is the big one?
Texas Preview is February 22nd, and then Texas Champions March 21st. Texas Preview is an inaugural. This is the first year that we're going to do it, and so because we were the added purse money that we've talked about, we were able to add Texas Preview Day, and this is about showcasing Texas breds and really getting Texas breds and that exposure. When you talk about that horse that won the Stoner side, Mr. Moneybags, just recently named the Texas Bred Horse of the Year. He's trying to get into some of these different categories where he's running really well against open company. He ran in the Pad Day Mile as a 3-year-old. I think that they like him around 2 turns. They like him at a little bit of distance. He's probably the best Texas bred around. There's some rumors that he could be the best Texas bred that some people have ever seen. And he's a real special horse. And it's just nice to see the connections. And you can see Mike Netherland and Mr. Moneybags coming. Mr. Roy Cobb. When they're in the house, and they've got this Texas bred going in the right direction. But there's a lot of great Texas breds in the breeding program and the TTA, and talking about the breeding and getting breeders and getting some of these sires here, and really building that product that way as well. That's equally as important. So this is a great way to showcase Texas racing. And so we'll have the preview day leading up into Texas Champions Day, and we've got a lot of great some giveaways planned, some promotions behind it, and you'll hear about more of that as we go on through the season. But again, just really excited, and Texas is going the right direction. TTA has been great. Everyone across the board. being a West Coast guy, it's great to get the reception that I've gotten and that we've gotten here in Houston. For sure.
Let's go through a little bit of your history. So, like, I always like hearing everyone's backstory.
Yeah.
How did you get into racing? Like, what got you into it? And give us some of like your first racing gigs and how you've moved up.
Man, there's such a long version of it, but basically, I was into drag racing initially in my announcing career, and then I was with the Globetrotters, Harlem Globetrotters, the voice of them for 6 years. So, been all over the world and enjoyed that experience. But then it came down to Frank Miramati, who I'm sure you know, and he and I had a discussion. We met through a mutual friend, basically, and it was just a kind of a random connection that we made. And he said, we just kind of chatted back and forth, and it came to a point where I said, hey, what would it take for me to call a race? And I was actually in the booth with him at Los Alamitos at the Los Alamitos Futurity. It was that 3-horse finish. I had the three noses on the wire. I can't. It was
Mr.
firing
Z?
line, firing line, Mr. Z, and was it Dortmund?
Yep.
So it was the three of them right at the line there. And it was during that day that I had gone up and watched a previous race with Frank, and I just said, what would it take for me to call a race? And he said, call a race. He said, let's get you a job somewhere, because he had heard me call some Globetrotter games and whatnot. So I got the opportunity from Larry Swartzlander and Richard Conway up in Ferndale at the Humboldt County Fair, and they said, all right, we're going to let you call the bull ring here for 2 weeks, because Miramati says you can call a race. So it was it was really kind of random. And then from there, I got the Portland Meadows gig. And was able to get that, and then got the fairs full time, and then I was lucky enough to go to Gulfstream Park West for a year, and then Houston came calling a little bit after that. So it's just been a wild ride for the last 6 years, and now here I am, the marketing manager and the track announcer. So from going to that spot to here, it's been quite the ride. For me and for my family, and my wife's very understanding in the travel and everything like that. But we're happy, and it's good, and I love this sport, and I love being in the booth, and I love doing the marketing side, and I enjoy everybody, and I enjoy the customers here that join us at SHRP.
Yeah, we've only interacted for like a few weeks now. I feel like I know you for a while. It's just we picked up very quickly, and I talked to Frank.
Being on the West Coast though, Gino, like we've probably crossed paths many times.
I'm sure we have. I didn't even know. Yeah, I was gonna say, like exactly, and Frank too is a really good friend of mine. Like I actually hadn't talked to him in a while, and we just picked up not long ago, a few weeks back, and it was just like anything. We always have fun sharing stories, and I learned a lot from Frank too, and eating pizza like always. I mean that's always the deal with Frank. So
it's a lucky position to be in the whatever they would call it, the brotherhood or the fraternity or anything like that. But there's so many great track announcers and that I've always listened to and admired for such a long time. And Frank is on the list, and so many others. And it's just it's an honor and a privilege to be in the booth. And I'm just having fun, man. It's a kind of a surreal experience.
People can tell, and that, you know what? People can tell, and you can tell just when when we hear your voice on the track, like in between when you're announcing different events, and like you mentioned, like the 70s night or the disco nights or the different things that they have going on there. When you're having fun, it makes us watching have fun, and we're all having a good time together, because we're all just in this together, right? We're all trying to make a few bucks and have a good time here. And some of us take it more seriously than others, but when you have to have fun out there,
and at the heart of it, I think we all get it. I think we all have that same understanding, and of course we're going to have opinions. This is pari-mutuel wagering. It is an opinion that you have in an upcoming race, and social media and all these things have changed the dynamic of all sports, not just horse racing, but many sports. And I always welcome people to let us know how we're doing, or if they want to give comments, or they think that we can improve in these areas. You can always continue to get better. And we'll get there. And it's about just putting out this great product, having fun, enjoying your day at the races. Because when I would go to my dad, I wasn't worried about anything else besides just hanging out with Pops and watching some races and betting. Picking some. I didn't bet them, but I was picking some horses. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it is. It just it always takes me back to that moment. And anytime I see a dad and his kids or something like that, I'm always reminded of that. So it's a great experience, and I love your energy. I love your show, and it's just great to have you covering us as well, because we appreciate it.
Oh yeah. So let's jump in then. Wednesday, I just had one of the handicappers who helps you guys out over there too, Andy Villanueva, great guy, great handicapper. He was on, and we went through basically race by race through the card, and we broke down most of it. So give us for the Wednesday card coming up, give me one or a horse or two or a race or two, something to keep an eye on, something that you like or that we should maybe throw into our pick 4s or pick 5s.
Well, the one thing I do have to tell you, keep an eye on the weather, because we're here in Houston. We know the forecast. So as you are handicapping, we do have some turf races on the card, but just keep an eye on the weather, and we'll get you those updates as soon as we can, day of on Wednesday, obviously. But to me, race 3 is interesting. I mean, when you're looking at a 7th furlong race and you take a look at a horse in Archie is off the claim, they claim from Danny Pish, but the horse has won 4 in a row and finished second by a neck. And I think you're going to get all of that 9-2 price. I mean, moves to the John Barger barn, and they claim this one. Are you going to see kind of the same effort? Rudy Garrett takes over. And then if you're taking a look, Broberg's got a couple in there. But I think Archie, should be able to hold some of that form that you're kind of seeing. This is a step up for the horse. Has been running against 5,000s, now taking a shot at 10. But at 9-2, I think it's worth the shot. I mean, why not? Why not take a look and see if this one can get in there when you go later on in the card? And I'm going to kind of mainly focus on some of these dirt races, just because. Sure. Yeah. We just don't know. But race number 7, maiden claiming at the 10 level. We talk about the pick 4 and enjoying the pick 4, 12% takeout, 50-cent minimum wager. I think you do have a vulnerable favorite in there. Hong Kong Helen had run the 5.5, had run over a sloppy track, and just didn't show any speed really in that race. And now she's going to be 8-5 in this spot. That 3-year-old Richard Arami has been riding here on Wednesdays. But dropping to the maiden 10, is that really going to be enough? There's quite a few in there that are dropping in class. And I don't know. And I don't know how you and Andy saw the race, but there's some prices in there that the 6 is not a slam dunk single in there for me. So if we're talking about value, I think especially in this spot, the first leg of the pick 4, 12% takeout, want to kick off with a price and kind of enjoy what's going to happen on later on the card. I think that's a big one, because if you look later in the sequence, we do have a 5 furlong sprint in there in race number 9 on the sequence. And so if there's rain or if that one comes off, there's a few more standouts in that race. When you kind of start looking at I'm a Barn Cat, you start looking at Light Up the Devil. I mean, this is horses that
this is the beat the favorite race.
They kind of look like they could be well meant on the turf, but especially if this race moves to the dirt.
Yeah, so, I mean, I thought the 10 Funky Justice at a price with some speed, and you mentioned a really sharp new jock coming in who with the bug, you imagine they're going to probably try to spend. And if Hong Kong Helen doesn't break, there's not a ton of speed in here, which makes this race interesting, because these are kind of lightly raced horses. Like any of them could show more speed in their second or third start. I mean, the 9 could be a little bit better. Like she wasn't too bad. The 3 and the 5 are logical. I'm with you. I think it's funny. I think in this race, Andy and I were opposite in that. I think he was like, okay, I'm going to go with Hong Kong Helen, who I think is a standout. And I was more of like, okay, I think I'm going to go against. And if you're going to go against, you might as well maybe just chuck this one out and then try to spread out a little bit here.
She might, but I don't know that the last race she might have just needed that last race. There's a real slow work there coming in off of the February 5th work. She had shown speed before at Ellis and Churchill, but then she went to the shelf and then there were some class drops involved.
She just kind of regressed in every race too. Even just coming here, she just hasn't really improved. So if she's the type of filly where if you like her a lot and you want to key in on her and some of the exotics, fine. That's definitely the way to play. But I think, for both you and I, it sounds like if she beats me at 7-5 to 2-1, like I'm okay with that.
Steve Asmussen is going to beat you a lot of times at 7-5 and 2-1. He knows how to get into the winner's circle. But I just think, especially during our season here at SHRP, when you found moments where you can beat Asmussen or Broberg or some of the big names, that's where you find some of these prices. Jerry Journeau. Let's talk about Jerry Journeau. I mean, the meet that he's been kind of had one of these sneaky meets, and he's been getting price after price after price when he gets into the winner's circle. So you take a look at his barn. Ernesto Torres is another one, like you mentioned, on the 9. Danny Pish has one in there. But yeah, it really comes down to who's going to be out in front, because if they are out in front at 5.5 at the maiden 10 level on what could be a sloppy main track, I think they could be very, very tough to catch. And Tommy Short's even got a 30-1 long shot in it. That's kind of interesting. So, there's a lot of different ways that you can go. If Andy goes with the favorite and we take the long shots, then again, that goes back to pari-mutuel wagering. That's what That's what
if
our
we
opinion
all
is.
thought the same thing in every race, it wouldn't be fun, right? It wouldn't be fun. No,
It would.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's where you take a shot in there. Some of the later races in that sequence, there's a bit more proven form in there, so you don't have quite as many question marks. So I think when you do have those question marks, that's where you go ahead and try and take a shot against the favorite. And then when you're looking at Broberg in the finale, I mean, he'll probably be very tough in there. So that is something to check out.
And we're going to be leaning on you now because I'm going to try to get as many different interviews on here with different connections. I've already spoke with Carl Broberg, and he said anytime, so we're going to set something up. I know he was busy this last week gambling. Very very good handicapper he is also. So we're going to get him on. We'd love to get some of the jockeys and trainers. Anyone ever has a good weekend or a good couple days, we'll bring them on. We'll have an interview. We'll talk to them, and we're going to just keep covering these races. We're having a blast, man. I love diving into this Wednesday card. It was really good. We'll knock on wood and hope they stay on the grass. And nothing we can do if they can't, but already moved on, looking at the Friday and the Saturday cards. And that's another real positive as we get set to let you go. I like that for someone, you guys get the entries out very early. Which is a big help, man. It's just so nice to get an extra day or two to look at them, because then for me, I can do this show a little bit earlier, get the show out. People have another day or two to listen to all the analysis before the races come. It just works out better for everyone.
Truthfully, sometimes I forget. Because then I see the entries run by. I'm like, oh yeah, we did draw for Saturday, didn't we?
Great.
And but it's also great that the response is great for the horsemen that you could fill and
you can do that. SoCal could not do that out here right now. So with the horse population.
Yeah, so. It's a great spot to be in, and you have my number, so we can get a hold of any of those jocks or anybody that you want to get a hold of course. And we just appreciate the support, man. It's great. I love your energy. I love your passion. I love that you're a new dad and the exciting things that are going on in your life. And it's just it's a pleasure to talk to you and get to know you. And it'll be a fun season as we continue on and keep going. And don't forget, we had Tuesday races March 10th too. We started running on Tuesday afternoons too. So lots more coverage, lots more fun, my brother.
That'll be even better, because now unfortunately sad that my girlfriend, she's got a great job at the Intercontinental Hotel here at downtown, so she just had to get back to work this last week. So now it's me and Milo at home. We are handicapping. We record our shows. Grandma and Nanu help me keep an eye on him when I have to do a little stuff here and there, but he's already looking, man. He's great. So we're very excited. Thank you for the kind words, and I really appreciate the interview. We're going to have to get you back on a couple more times too over the next few months before the big days. We'll talk with you, or anytime there's anything big going out there. And one more thing is we let you give us your plugs. You guys have a real improved social media presence this year also. There's some morning training video stuff. You've got the Monday Minute stuff. It just seems like you're, you mentioned everything moving from the TTA, from Texas, from Sam Houston is just all moving in a positive direction, and we're just getting more and more, which is great for us as bettors.
Yeah, I don't think you could have a lack of content. My belief has always been just give everybody everything we can give, and just give it time and effort and put it out there. And some things are going to work and some things aren't going to work. And it's best for the audience to let us decide. If the Monday Minute is not something they're into, then you adjust and you change it. And we're adding some new features with Martha Clausen coming up, and we've got a lot of great things just to give more and more coverage to Texas, because we got to get the word out there. A lot of great things are happening, but we got to let people know that it's happening. So social media, when you have a phone, we're able to go ahead and capture those videos, and everyone's been very generous with their time and letting us run around the backside there and get some interviews and some pictures, and it's all a part of it. If we're a professional sport and we see ourselves that way, then let's cover it that way as well, and that's what we're doing, and that's what we're working towards, and we're looking forward to the future, and I hope that I'm a big part of that.
Chris Griffin, you can follow him on Twitter at In the Grandstand, and then
I would have gone with Chris Griffin, but
I'm sure
there was cartoon ruined my Twitter
handles. And then Sam Houston Racing, you can follow at SHRP Racing, and then Sam Houston Race Park, you can follow at SHRP, and the website for all the good information, shrp.com, where you can find everything out there. Chris, thank you so much for your time. I'll be talking to you again in the next few days, and let's make some money on Wednesday.
Sounds good, Gino. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
That was Chris Griffin. We'll be back in just a minute here on That's What G Said. So a big thank you to Andy and a big thank you to Chris for talking some Sam Houston Wednesday. I just want to do a quick little recap of some of my thoughts throughout the card. So
You can play those 2 different pick 5 sequences. The way that I would approach the early pick 5 is I would play 2 different tickets, and I'd probably single the 2 in race number 5. So in race number 1, kind of just go quickly through how I have the horses. Race 1, I'm going to go 10, 8, 4, 7, 3. Those are some forms of the horses I'm going to use in exotics, and I'm giving them to you in order of how we like them. So throw the 10 into some of your exotics at a price. In race number 2, we're going to go with the 9 on top of the 6, 4, 1. The 1, keep an eye on. I mean, it's going to be probably tough to exclude from the exotics, as this one, the money will probably show up on early, and Asmussen's been good. So I'm okay with using those 4 and okay with taking a shot against the 7 in there. And we'll have the 9 on top. In race number 3, I have 6, 1, 8, 2. Archie was the horse given out by both of our guests. I thought the 6 was a price play, and to me the 1 is going to be really tough to beat. The 1A in particular, Toasting Master, going to be tough to beat in here. Race number 4, we'll go 4, 8, 6, 10. Don't forget about using What Power in some of your exotics. The others are logical in there. I think the 2 is a horse I'm going to single in some of the exotics in race number 5. That's Black Rock Castle. Make sure to include Black Rock Castle in your early pick 5s, early pick 4s, pick 6s, whatever you're playing there. In race number 5 will likely vie for favoritism there, and I just think going to be really, really tough from the inside if he can break well. In race number 6, I've got 6, 2, 8, 7. I just thought the 6 was going to be tough. This, to me, was one of the races where maybe you play the chalk and just kind of single, and then you can spread out the rest of the way through if you're playing the late pick 5 there. In race number 7, I'm going against Hong Kong Helen, so I'm going to go 10, 3, 5, 9, and we'll take a shot against Hong Kong Helen there. That's why I'm okay with singling Countenance in race number 6, who I just think is going to be really, really tough in there. So in race number 8, we'll go 5, 11, 2, 9. I think the 5, Bodhifecta, is the one to beat. The 11, interesting to me there. Hurry back to the dirt. The 2 has some speed. I just think there's more to this one than we've seen in the last couple. And in the 1. Or, excuse me, in the 9, Dobie. So 5, 11, 2, 9. Can't even read my own writing sometimes. 5, 11, 2, 9. Dobie got the typical rail trip. He got the shuffle. He was back to last. And then in race number 9, I'm going to go 7, 2, 6, 9. The 7, Light Up the Devil. No turf success, but a horse who should really get the trip, cutting back. It looks like there's a ton of speed in there. I think she's going to be able to have a little bit of a late punch. And then to close things out, the 1's going to be tough in there. I'm going to have the 8 on top with the 5, with the 1, with the 12, depending on how deep you want to go in some of these exotics. So I try to put them in order so, you kind of see how I can tier the horses. And I think the 8 on top, the 5 is the one to catch, and the 1 is definitely the one to beat in there. So make sure to include Iced Out. So there are some of my recap thoughts. We'll be talking more Sam Houston. We got a big week coming up this week with a lot of racing. We'll be talking some fairgrounds. We're going to talk some college basketball with Dan. We're going to talk some fairgrounds with a couple different guests, and then some Oaklawn later in the week. Huge week on That's What G Said. Make sure to subscribe, download, rate, and review anywhere that you get your podcast. Thanks again, folks, and we'll be talking to you again real soon.